The food service, hospitality, and retail industries are evolving in ways you've never heard of until now. Hosted by global industry technovator Rob Grimes and powered by the IFBTA, TechBytes is your go-to podcast, putting technology innovation and trends on the menu.
Well, here we are for another episode of TechBytes and another conversation on TechBytes. A conversation actually started a month ago. And I'm really pleased to have Jason Wade, who is the Vice President of Strategic Operations for Parlour Pizza, but actually that's part of a group. And so welcome to TechBytes, and maybe we can start with actually getting it correct, what the group is and the type of thing that you do day in and day out, and then we can talk about how we met.
Oh, thank you, Rob. I'd be more surprised if we didn't mess that up because, my family, friends, we often, what do you do, Jason? So, with a group, it's a small holding company based in Louisville, Kentucky region, but our brands stretch around the world. So for the sake of this, Parlour Pizza lives in the casual dining space. We are going to be 10 locations in the Midwest, but also oversee a brewery, Fall City Brewery, and we can talk about that, Old 502 Winery. We've got a gin company based in Scotland that we're making plans to bring over to the U.S. and also deal in the cannabis, the RTD, ready to drink cannabis space as well. So that's the fun and exciting places. I have an ambiguous title that allows you to kind of lean into many different directions, I suppose.
Is the ready to drink cannabis, is that served in vending machines?
It is not. So if you're vaguely familiar with that industry, the regulation is still catching up to it. I think vending machines would be the obvious no on there, as we want age gating.
Well, I don't know about that. That was a serious question because I've been following vending machines, and I've actually seen at the C-Store Industry Show, NACS, they actually have got vending machines that will, scan your face, do the ID checking, that actually do those things. So it is out there. So that's what I thought I'd ask.
Well,
alcoholic beverages as well, by the way.
Yeah, now that you said that, I do remember being in the Frankfurt, Germany airport and seeing the Duff beer vending machine as well in there. So yeah, maybe we're onto something now.
You are, but you. So let's, when we talk about strategic operations, and you just described everything from, gin to pizza, to cannabis and the brewery. I probably missed something in there. Are you sort of a jack of all trades that works across all of the different brands within the group?
Yeah, I'd say so. And we can get into it, but I've got, I guess, 20 years of experience now in kind of the food and beverage and real estate spaces. So I try to take pride in, not getting lost in any type of vertical. And that's kind of the exciting part. So Nice Ventures, we're a holding company, and we like to supply the gasoline to help, passionate entrepreneurs that have a good product, help them grow in the marketplace. And oftentimes with our brands, they can mutually benefit the growth of one another as well. So a lot of our resources are cross-functional among the brands too.
Well, listen, we met at and I want to point this out, we met at the National Restaurant Association's The Table Conference, and you were one of our panel speakers on different subjects, and the IFBTA, of course, was thrilled to be there and talking tech. Each one of our speakers really brings a different experience, a different world of experience, but also both current and in their past. And I suspect it wasn't Parlour and it wasn't Nice Brands that brought you to Louisville. So maybe you want to talk a little bit about, this isn't your first go around in pizza.
No, that's exactly right. So I went to undergrad and graduate school in Louisville at the University of Louisville. And, my wife, she has some roots here. She didn't want to leave. So met some great people and started at Papa John's. And I won't bore you with the full journey, but it did start in the call center, just kind of looking for an opportunity. And that was unique just because our call center supported both the restaurant teams that were having trouble opening or closing, or target and food cost analysis, or coupon codes. And then the other side of the call center was dealing with the e-commerce side, which was just about 10 or 15% of the business at the time. 15 years later is close to 80%. So it was mutually beneficial. If you think about the spikes, the restaurant support side was heavy in the morning and then closing shifts. And then obviously the e-com side was heavy at the lunch and dinner periods. So you could have some cross training, but the big benefit that I said is we were trying to understand the root cause of the cause, how to reduce frequency, make those the user experience and the user flow improvements. So that dovetailed into an opportunity on the training side, rolling out new products, new procedures, making our operational procedures better, and just making the life of the general manager easier was always the goal. As we were growing online sales, that should make the ergonomics and the flow and the disruptions of the restaurant easier as well.
Did you have a, technology background before that, before you took this gig, or you met the wife, went to school, took the gig?
Pretty much, pretty much. Again, I'm very curious, which is sometimes encouraged and sometimes a bad thing as well. So, experience sometimes on the international side too, and I'm not even close to bilingual, so I take that for a grain of salt.
Well,
But yeah,
technology can solve that, but when you think about it, if was it your first foray into the restaurant industry?
yeah, I think like most, did a little bit of server, bartender, and casual dining restaurants. I've got 3 kids. I'm going to make them work in restaurants as well because I think you learn a ton of life lessons about people, about time management, about multitasking, and just overall processes. So I appreciated that. And then, quick service pizza is a whole nother animal as well, too.
Well, I think that if you're taking a look at it that way, you learn from some of the best because some of the biggest innovators actually came from one of the big 3 pizza companies when it came to online ordering, the call center taking, orders, not just help desk, and also how they do the user experience, and then getting into what you're going to do with drivers. So there's all kinds of pieces that come in that e-commerce space that, you're able to bring with you. So that would bring us to Parlour Pizza, of which, by the way, I have learned that you can have pickles on a pizza and it actually tastes pretty good.
Yeah, that's
Do you sell a lot of those?
surprisingly. So pickle pizza was kind of suggested by one of our food group partners. And, inside those test kitchens, there's a lot of products that taste really good. But what do we have the intestinal fortitude to actually put on the menu? So we're trying to overcome those barriers that those screeners of, what in the world? Why are we promoting this? We look for local community partners to kind of help unlock those things. So there's an emerging franchise here in the Midwest called Good Bounce Pickleball, giving them a shout out. And so it said, hey, let's mutually benefit
You did a promo together on that?
we absolutely did. So we felt like we probably had some crossover already on our customer bases, but I'm sure there was some incrementality. So with each trial of the pickle pizza, they got a free hour of court time over a Good Bounce pickleball, and then vice versa. They sent some bounce back coupons our way as well. So that was one way to do so. But then also, just having some fun with it. The industry actually it's on a pickle high. Is that a
But you know what? But fried pickles, I mean, that is actually a food item that people eat. So I get that. But at the same time, sometimes those simple comments that people make. So we took a group out of, our members during the table conference to the Parlour, and we had several of those pizzas. And somebody just said to me, why should we be so surprised? People put pickles on a cheeseburger and they put pickles on this and pickles on that. So why shouldn't it taste good on a pizza?
We're onto something here. Yeah. And again, I know barbecue restaurants spend a little bit of time in Kansas City, and it's not just a pickle. You got to understand what kind and what the spice level. There's a lot of variation. So there's a connoisseur for everything.
Well, so listen, I don't know if you're using technology to count the pickles that go on the pizza, but I do know some people that do that are using AI vision to go ahead and take a look at the placement of pepperoni. But what is as a emerging growth company and also an international company in multiple businesses, where is your focus on technology and what might you have brought with you to this position in strategic operations to do technology? What are you seeing? What is your need? What's your focus area?
Well, I'm going to take you back a little bit on that too, because you pulled to my heartstrings when you talked about the AI with the vision on quality. So for some that do or do not know, Papa John's, we called it a snapshot. The mystery shopper program was at the DNA of measuring quality. You always have those subjective measures that says, Did it taste good? Was it hot? That sort of thing. But we wanted to get consistency, and that Chick-fil-A or McDonald's, they always have consistency. But with pizza, the customer tends to eat with their eyes more than anything else. And so that's one thing that we can control. So developed a 10-point grading system. You want a 1-inch crust. You want a sauce border that is locked by cheese so the toppings don't slide off. The distribution of the products, you should have 42 pepperoni on a 1-topping pepperoni. And then like our specialty pizzas, the Works has 7 toppings, and you should taste every one of those toppings in a bite so you get the full flavor profile intended for the Works pizza. And I say that like if you order a Big Mac, those toppings are flat, you're going to get every topping in every bite. Pizza, if the distribution is too off balance, left or right or center to outside, you're not experiencing the Works pizza when you bite into there. So that was something we really instilled. And
so what were they? They were taking a picture of the pizza and you could tell from the picture?
Yeah. So we had a team of analysts. And again, sample size is always something to be improved upon. But every restaurant across the globe, actually, we would sign up for 2 mystery shops a month. And they would send a vertical and a horizontal picture of the pizza. And then we would
Is that like you hold the pizza up like this?
And there was a training guide.
Slides off, or I don't know how you do that, like vertical. Okay.
Yeah. There was a guide. So basically they would take a picture directly overhead of the pizza. And also we would measure to make sure the crust or the pizza was cut evenly. I'm the youngest of 3, so I always get the small slice of pizza.
You're the youngest of 3 and you have 3.
That's correct.
There you go. You come in 3s.
Yeah. So
pizzas aren't cut in 3 though.
No, they're cut in 8 generally. But I say that meaning you always wanted even size slices because as the youngest brother, I know I was always going to get the small slice of pizza. So I was very passionate about keeping that even. But so they would take a picture of the pizza. We would throw up a grading scale. And for the crust color, think about being in your paint department. You got the Pantone color chart, too light, too dark. And then, we would take each slice and have it in bite boxes and make sure those distribution of toppings are in there. So again, the sample size, if you're doing, 1,200 transactions a week and 1.5 pies per order, you're probably 6,000 pizzas going out the door each and every month. And you're only looking at 2 of them, it's not a good sample size. So we were exploring and constantly chasing, how can we do this with automation, cameras inside the restaurant to do so? And the technology is advanced.
Well, people are doing that today. They're using security cameras, though, for the footage and able to do that. And they started in pizza, of all places, but also the planograms of how you do a kitchen and some of those. So I don't know. Were you able to are you employing any of that today in what you're doing? Do you see it available to you because time has passed and technology has changed? Or is there some makeshift technology that you're using? Maybe it was created for something else, like the visioning that they use to, take a picture of something and see how it looks in your living room, right? So, do you use these types of technologies or are you interested in them today?
I think we're definitely interested. The thing about Parlour's in a different segment, is in the casual dining versus QSR. QSR, it's high online, high carryout, small footprint. Real estate doesn't matter. At Parlour, we've got to have great real estate. We've got a great looking restaurant, and there's so many people interactions. So I think instead of just basing everything on throughput, at Papa John's, our tech was, how do we make it easier to identify the right thing to do and do it faster, eliminate steps, bends, and turns? On the casual dining side, it's how can I remove a disruption from the service staff so they can focus on great interactions with the guest? And that's just a little bit different lens. So I think the quick technology is, phone calls are the easiest to, take out of the disruptions. But what else? I know a lot of brands, they do the payment at the table. Got mixed emotions on removing that interaction. But what's the right size? It's got to be great for the guests, but also a good fit with the team too. So we got to listen to both sides.
Well, listen, I think you're giving us a good segue, and let's just take a break. I want to come back to that focus on the guest and also what you're doing in your restaurants, because now that I've had the experience, there were some takeaways that I got from it. So I want to hear how you intend to work with those. So let's just take a break. And I'm with Jason Wade, who is the Vice President of Strategic Operations for Parlour, part of a group company that includes cannabis and alcohol and gin and all kinds of different things out there, and a brewery. And we'll come right back.
With the rapid expansion of technology in the food and beverage industries, finding the right supplier can become overwhelming and complicated. To simplify this process, the IFBTA created Exchange. Exchange is a powerful search tool where users can easily narrow down their technology search and refine results by application type, geography served, department, and more. Browse resources and learn more about the industry's technology suppliers at exchange.ifbta.org. Now, back to the show.
So welcome back, and I'm very pleased to be we're in the middle of a conversation. You guys are all like interrupting, or we interrupted ourselves, but we're having a conversation, and I've got Jason Wade with me, the Vice President of Strategic Operations at Parlour Pizza, and the group of companies, as we've been discussing. And right before the break, we were talking about what happens, why in a fast casual pizza environment, it's different than what he really grew up in and helped to grow and develop technologies within Papa John's, which is what brought him to, well, his wife in school brought him to Louisville, and he stayed there and ended up with Papa John's. So, and if you're paying attention in the first half, you got that. So here's what I want to know. So I had the opportunity to go in and experience, and I can tell you a couple things. The server was a hoot, was great, because you're taking the time to explain your menu to people, which is a lost art. People don't explain menus. And let me tell you, we got the detailed explanation. Now, maybe she was just great at it, or maybe everybody's doing it, but it was part of the experience. Is that part of the normal thing that you do?
You hope to, and I think we're really good at it. Obviously, it's never as consistent as you want, but it's always refreshing to hear that feedback too. And so it's also, you got to have, it's a balance. The world doesn't need another pizza place, so you do need to have some unique offerings that drive curiosity by the name and the descriptor. But also, there is an opportunity to really lean into why it's so special, why you want to have that mouth-watering craveability of those menus. So I'm glad to hear.
Well, it's your culture, it's your experience, right? Which everybody's using those words. I wouldn't say that having somebody who has to deliver the whole menu is necessarily considered frictionless, which seems to be one of the words today, but personalization for sure, which is another buzzword, right? So, how do you deploy technology, or how are you looking at technology, your perspective today in a fast casual pizza environment versus where you were before? And, what are the positives and what may be the negatives in keeping that culture and personality out there?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the initial biggest positive is you've got every opportunity to have a great customer experience. When a majority of your folks are coming, your customers, your customer base is coming inside to experience your brand, you get every opportunity to tell that brand story. On the quick service side, you're offering at the liberty of, a third party site telling that experience, or making sure you have a robust user experience on the web. So your only customer, experience really is that product. Here we have no number of touch points that we get to hit on, and that's the fun part of it. To your point, the menu complexity, it's a lot more complex. At a QSR pizza, everything goes through that same oven, and it's usually at one speed. So throughput, as long as it's put in together, it's going to come out together. But now we've got.
So you just gave me an aha moment, because I think even when we first met and we did the panel, we were describing that pizza is one of the hardest environments to do point of sale in, because you can split a pizza up and you have toppings and the variable mixes, and how many different combinations are there? It's like a Starbucks secret menu. How many combinations are there, right? Well, you just pointed out that the complexity when you go to fast casual or casual pizza is even worse, because you have all these other food products that you're also having to pair up.
Yeah, I mean, the bake time is much different when we do their smoked wings. And so, Papa John's, a lot of other QSR pizza, the wings just go through the oven belt, same as a pizza. They might go through 1.5 times depending on their source or their size. We do smoked wings, so you really have to forecast and plan ahead and use data and adjust. It's not quite Arby's roast beef level of planning where
Because they're made fresh,
yep.
because they're made fresh, and there's a timing factor in it. So are you actually monitoring that timing factor throughout a shift and then preparing new?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a high cost item, but it's a high demand item. So you want to get it right as well. So there's a lot of forecasting, a lot of checks multiple times through the day, but it's not something that you can just, prep and have ready in 5 minutes or anything like that. So that's a big bottleneck that we try to get data and help on. We've got great salads as well. But then there's other items that need much longer cooking times. And casual dining, you're always expecting, hot and fresh at your plate. But if you got a table of 12 like we just did, you obviously want the food to come out the same time as well. So it's same
Are you
challenge.
using technology besides the analytics to help drive when to place those orders, or to time, or to figure out even what to put on the menu so they fit well together?
Not as well as we should. Just like in different at Papa John's, we would notice different areas of town or different demographics or DMAs, as we call them, would be heavy meat consumers or heavy veggie consumers or heavy sides. We don't have that data just yet at 8 locations and 2 cities. I think it's an opportunity for us that I hope we can lean into to get more menu mix based projections by hour, by location. It's on a roadmap, but I can't say it's the number one we're chasing.
So, you have the experience also in your current environment of different types of operations. And we always talk about how different industries use technology that can be adapted for the hospitality restaurant industry. Are there, and people talk about restaurants being a manufacturing plant. Now, I know it's not the same as brewing something, it's not the same as aging something. So I get that. But are there some technologies, learnings that you were able to learn in the other businesses that you've been able to apply to this one? Maybe something they wouldn't have thought about before?
Yeah, no, it's you're taking me back a bit when you said the manufacturing process. I remember again going back to Papa John's. The biggest learning curve and the biggest opportunity to failure was using our fresh dough. And there's other brands that would have a frozen or a par baked product, but our dough was the big differentiator. But for when you have staffing challenges, you have wage challenges. It was the hardest thing to train, and it was the biggest thing that needed to be managed. It was needed to be used days 3 through 7. Humidity and all the temperature variations that could cause that.
Can really change it.
Yeah, yeah, and so we were trying to automate it because we see the fast casual market, the Blaze Pizza, those guys just using basically a tortilla press, and they're like, can we use something like that? Or you go to the frozen food facility and they're just mass producing these products. So like, where's the opportunity? But the variations that we have, with all the humidity, all the conditions, and all the customization made that a bit tougher. So we did work. It was about a 2-year process. And the big difference was, as opposed to using a press, we needed to simulate and try to replicate hands actually being on the dough and stretching it. And it was a big risk for us because we didn't know if the equity was in the product being hand stretched and fresh dough, or if the equity was in that customer interaction, actually seeing hands on the product.
Wait, I'm missing. So did you go to some sort of robotics or something that's able to do that?
Yeah, we did. We call it the dough spinner. That's not the most clever tech forward.
Not like up in the air and
Now that actually destroys the center volume. It looks great, but it's not good for the quality of the cell structure of the pizza.
And it wouldn't sell well at the pickleball court.
No, it would not. It would not. So again, we work timelessly and a lot of vendor work and vendor exploration to find somebody that would partner with us and developed a proprietary piece that does replicate the hand stretching the dough. We had to make a conscious decision. We needed to gear this for 14-inch pizzas, knowing that we also sold 8, 10, 12, and 16s, but 14-inch pizza was probably 65, 70% of the menu mix. So that's where I was going to really help out the operations the most. Because most times when you went into a location, who was your most talented dough slapper? It was probably the manager. And that's not where you want your manager to be. Yes, they're helping control operations, but they're also not interacting with customers or guests, or they pretty much have their back to the operations. Right. So it tried to free up, your most valuable team member to engage with the operations and be a head coach, if you will, and not just another production team member.
Mm-hmm. So is it totally robotic? I mean, a robotic arm or it's, something that takes the dough? And I mean, I'm trying to picture what it is. I should have gone in the back of the house or something and take a look at this.
Yeah. So it's similar to a press, but it's a wheel based system. So basically, you just kind of hold it down, and we had to put controls in there so you don't hold it down too long and just roll it out too far.
No.
Yeah. So it's a cool.
So you get consistency out of it. You're able to do higher throughput, and you're able to do fresh dough, which is where you want to be. I thought where you were headed, by the way, but I was trying to do the correlation on it that you were going to tell me about the dough fermentation process or something in beer. That how do you keep beer? Well, I don't know. You would think, hey, there must be beer infused pizzas and crust, right? I mean, you find other things in there. It beats me.
Both use yeast.
There's probably something there. We ought to try that one. But you would think that there's a process of how you keep things fresh. And that there's some pieces. Now, you did say that you travel a lot too, and you've worked across multiple industries. Are there some things that you've seen in your travel that you think would be applicable or a good idea, or you brought home and actually used?
No, not so much. I think with stepping back a little bit with our portfolio, I think that's how we've got here. And if you're not familiar or not in it, you're like, wow, there's so many industries. Well, Parlour Pizza for us, we've got 7 open locations. We've got 3 of them under construction, and we're growing in new markets. That helps our beer business. Every one of our locations might have 24 to 30 taps of beer, but hey, we could put Fall City beer into those locations and have 8 taps. And, we cross over the line and go into Ohio. Cool. That introduces us to a new market with kind of a hub that we can build spokes off of as well. And it's the same thing for the winery or for a bourbon brand or gin brand as well. So that's how they all kind of work together. And that's not a new practice. I think there's other brands that do something similar. We're just trying to build it more here in the Midwest. But I've seen this concept play out before, and fingers crossed, we're really excited about how this.
So are you going to be adding new brands to this or creating new brands? Or are you sticking with what you have and you're just going to keep expanding them? Or
I've just been with this group under 3 years, and I think sitting still is never an option. I'll say that. There are a couple M&A opportunities that are available that we're definitely have the hood open and actively exploring for sure. So,
and in related swim lanes of some sort?
Yeah, more complementary resources. And like I said, you've got some of these industries, and I'll dovetail into the RTD cannabis beverage industry. Probably the biggest wild card, just because you don't know exactly where the legislation is going to lean. It varies on a state by state basis, but the one thing that's proven is there's such a consumer demand for this piece. And there's other ones that they can't keep up with production, which really creates an opportunity for us to help in and get us grow wider and use complementary.
So I mean, I could think about why. I mean, let's put aside the entrepreneurial piece or why maybe a return on investment made sense as to how they looked at this. I almost am picturing early on that somebody said, "Hey, let's get into cannabis here because people get the munchies and they're going to eat more pizza." However, having said that, I sat on a panel early this year at the Bar Restaurant Show, which was next to the pizza show, by the way.
Okay.
And it was going on at the same time in Vegas. And I heard exactly the opposite, that the use of cannabis and not the Ozempic effect here, which is totally different, but the use of cannabis was causing people to actually stay at home and not necessarily go out. And that the munchie effect was not necessarily finding itself out in the restaurants.
Yeah, I could see both sides to that. And again, I think on-premise consumption is it's something that's emerging. I know, before Kentucky changed some laws, we had some great on-premise accounts that were a lot of bars, restaurants, a lot of live music spots. To the customer benefit or the menu mix, impact. I'd say my friends that own these spots, they said they loved the product, but they also saw customers that they knew were going to sit there for hours and consume 3 to 4 buckets of beer. They would have a bucket of beer, then they'd have this low dosage cannabis product and just kind of sit there and just take in the environment more so. So
Yeah, there you go. Well, you can take a bucket of beer home too. So well, I think it depends on the law, but I get that. So that makes some sense. So is there you did mention the word roadmap and sort of, your tech stack or where you're looking. What is on your roadmap as you take the company forward?
again, it varies by brand, but again, staying with the casual dining pizza spot, I think it is trying to, help improve the customer experience, and that's seeing, it's both doing mystery shops on brands that we admire and that we can take notes from, and everybody has, ones they punch upwards to. We do the same on I'd say the other one that has the most opportunity is the cannabis brand. Anybody's familiar? Hectares, Hectares. You can find us
Isn't
hectares.com.
that like a space of land or something like that?
Yeah, well, it depends. So
It's like an acre or what?
yeah, it's driven from a 2 acre plot of land, and so we are, natural and from the earth, and I will stand by our ingredient statement any time of the week. But then we had an activation at South by Southwest in Austin, and just a different culture, not familiar with the product, and they assumed it was Hector, as in Hector was a person. But we're like, who am I to disagree? You love the product, you recognize the brand, let's go. So
Could make a good digital person.
yeah, and so yes, no, I completely agree. I think that'll be a campaign, but with that one, the regulations and how you can tell that story and how you can market it and do it responsibly. We never want to, be caught advertising towards children or underage. So we want to be very conscious on that. There's brands that do heavy social media spend on there, and we're very, hesitant to do so because you don't know where that can go. So we want to be responsible and have industry partners that want to work with us, but we know we have some controls to do it the right way. But loads of opportunity there on maybe influencer partnering with different events or different groups or even other brands that are complementary as well.
Well, listen, if you ever get into the vending cannabis or the vending pizza, which is a growing area, we should have a conversation on that because, people are figuring out how to vend both, but make them fresh and figuring out how to keep their corporate culture somehow in there as well.
Yeah, that's absolutely fair. We did work on a pizza and beer delivery program or a pilot at Papa John's shortly after Pizza had announced that, and it didn't work. But I think maybe to your point, it might have just been a little bit ahead of its time at that time. So
A lot of those deja vu moments, things people think are brand new, really were tried, and sometimes they're ahead of their time. So, just out of curiosity, is there something that you've seen over your years that truly was ahead of its time and you think is going to come back, but maybe it's not out there yet?
oh my goodness. I'm trying to think of the things we blow the dust off of. The autonomous delivery. We had multiple jokes, and I know you had the joke with Mike Nettles, a former counterpart, about the drone delivery. I do think the autonomous third party delivery is probably going to happen with the vehicles, and we see that. And just working with a big retailer on the Hectare side, GoPuff, enormous on grocery delivery, straight to your door. That's not going to slow down. And so, how can you do it easier, simpler, and faster? I laugh every time I do an Amazon delivery, and it gives me a window. It can be at my door in under an hour, and it's mind blowing. So, that's where it's going to be, 100%. But
And that is a great example of how another industry's technology innovation, is going to drive, what we end up being able to take advantage of.
for sure, for sure. But
Well, listen, it's been great having a conversation with you this time, not live, in person, but I'll look forward to the next one for that for sure. And I'm going to have to come check out the pizza rolling machine to understand exactly how that works. But I think I get it. And by the way, you're right, about the hand piece, because I remember Taco Bell testing out something to do the cheese and drop the cheese on because people want the cheese dropped on their taco. So I get that. But it's great. It's great learning your story and getting to meet you and trying the pickle pizza and now knowing that it was all part of a pickleball promotion. So we got that.
no, fantastic. That's fun things, and look forward to hosting you again soon.
Great. Well, thank you. And it's been a pleasure to have a conversation today with Jason Wade, who is the Chief Strategic Operations Vice President for Parlour Pizza and the other ventures within their group of companies. And we've explored those, and we'll be continuing that conversation. But thank you for joining us on TechBytes today.
All the pleasure. Cheers.
This podcast is brought to you by the International Food and Beverage Technology Association. The IFBTA is the industry's voice of food service, hospitality, and retail technology, providing thought leadership as your single, impartial, and go-to resource. The IFBTA offers in-person and online communities to connect with your peers, the exchange, an all-encompassing global technology resource, and an industry-wide professional education and certification program. The bottom line is the IFBTA is your place to gather, learn, and share in conversations like the one we're having today. Thank you for joining us on this episode of TechBytes, powered by the IFBTA. I'm Rob Grimes, your host, and I look forward to taking our next bite of technology together.